Be specific.
Be specific with well, the new product that we're introducing.
Great
to the
segue.
marketplace. Thank you.
Actually,
Used to be a DJ. Actually, I wasn't. I wanted to be, but yeah.
I'm glad you failed in that career path.
Me too. Life wouldn't have been much different.
Sorry. At any rate, this new product, the One Step.
Yeah. UltraDisc One Step.
We should probably explain how the normal quote unquote record replication process would go. Do you want to handle that, and I'll talk about the One Step process?
Oh, sure. I'll talk about the 3-step. Right? Okay. So the 3-step process. This is the way that standard records are made, and they have been made from the beginning, I believe, of the phonograph record manufacturing process, going back 100 years ago. Is okay. So a 3-step process is we will cut a lacquer master. That lacquer master contains one side of a given record. Let's say we've cut side A of a given album.
How about Santana Abraxas?
For example, we'll cut that side and we will send that down to the record manufacturing plant. What they then do is they will electroplate that lacquer master using nickel, and the lacquer is essentially sprayed with this nickel that adheres to it, and once that dries, it is then peeled off of the lacquer, thereby destroying it, but creating something called a father, which is a negative of the original lacquer. So instead of being a groove like this, it's sort of an anti-groove like this. And so then what needs to happen after that is you need to then electroplate this electroplating and create a positive from that, which is called a mother. So father is then electroplated with the same nickel elements, and then those two are separated very carefully, and now you have something called a mother. And the great thing about the mother is that the mother can be used over a period of time, several times, to create what are called stampers. Stampers are what create the final record. So to review, it kind of goes in terms of positive and negative, and all the different steps. You go from lacquer to father to mother to stamper to pressing. And that's a 3-step process. And as you can imagine, the more steps in a process, the more you're going to introduce things like groove deformation, or signal-to-noise ratio will go up. There'll be more surface noise. So if you can remove steps in that process, you're going in the right direction, which leads us to the 1-step process.
The 1-step process, as the name would imply, is exactly that. We cut our lacquer master on the lathe, and that is sent down to be electroplated, which it is in the same process as the multi-step process, and it's coated or metallized, and that is peeled apart, and that is your stamper. Technically, the term is convert, and that is used as your stamper, thereby removing several steps out of that plating process. And as Rob said, the signal-to-noise ratio has improved. The surface of the record is very, very smooth and flat, and they are very quiet. In fact, in the tests that we did on Tim DePeravicini's urging, to give him credit, because he was very insistent about it, as Tim can be, and we did this 1-step process on the Santana Abraxas, and I have to say that the results were more than expected. It was amazing, and especially in the intro with the Singing Winds and Crying Beast, with the cymbal washes and all the chimes, and it's incredible, the depth, the microdynamics in that are all there. And I was really excited that we were able to do a title of that magnitude as our first product in the 1-step chain, and then our second one will be?
That'll be by the Bill Evans Trio, which is a title called Sunday at the Village Vanguard. Sunday at the Village Vanguard was recorded on June 25th, 1961 in a session at the Village Vanguard in New York City. It was the last live performance of bassist Scott LaFaro, who 10 days later would die in an unfortunate car accident. What's really exciting about this particular title is that the tape that we used, for instance, let me just back up for a second. Santana Abraxas is an example of a classic rock album where We have multi-track recording. I believe that was recorded 16-track, if I had to guess, and then mixed to stereo 2-track tape, where you have recorded onto multi-track tape, and then you can decide later how you want to balance that recording onto a mix. In the case of this live recording at the Village Vanguard, there is no mix. The 2-track stereo master is the recording. So the tape that we acquired is the tape that was on the machine at the point of performance. And an additionally cool thing, why don't we talk about that original LP that we got to hear?
Sure, with the elliptical filter.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't there at the time of the cutting, but in comparing one of the original LPs to the master tape, we found that a device called an elliptical filter, or a summing matrix for the bass, was used, and whereby you can set the crossover point more or less, and it'll pull the bass toward mono. And this is not true to the original recording whatsoever in terms of placement of the instrument, but it makes it easier for the disc mastering engineer to cut the record. And that's not what we do. We don't believe in automation, and we don't use extraneous signal processing. We're as pure as the driven snow. Sorry. We're purists.
Yeah.
As such, to be completely honest, when we dig for the proper master tapes with the record labels, we're a pain. We are very, very particular about the tapes that we use, and very, very insistent about the entire process, right to the final artwork and the way the paper is. I have to say, I realize it's a premium product. All Mobile Fidelity products are. And as such, you pay a premium for them, but the quality is there. All our fans that come to our room testify to that the pictures are exquisite. And I have to say, it's incredible. It's exquisite. The depth of this artwork is really phenomenal.
Right.
Honestly, I wish I'd purchased more of them.
Me too. Excuse me.
Choked up.
I'm all choked up
that.
about this. Me too, and actually that leads to another good point, is that, it's hard to determine how many people are going to want to buy a new series in a record label's catalog. So we sort of decided that 2,500 copies would be the limit for Santana Abraxas, and also will be the limit for the Bill Evans Trio, at least at press time. But as Shawn would, I'm sure, I would definitely recommend that anybody interested in the one-step pressings should act like, I'm not a salesman, but I must invoke this, act now, because before the Abraxas even was on sale, all the back orders spoke for all 2,500 copies, and so unfortunately we have many disappointed customers that would love to have a copy and don't. And at this time, regrettably, yeah,
not something we want to do is put out a product that people really desire and leave them disappointed.
Exactly.
That's not a good thing. We don't want to do that to our loyal customers.
Not at all.
So it's something that we're going to have to address in the future.
Yeah.
It's, this is a new product line for us, and those of us with a very long memory or an internet search engine can look up the Mobile Fidelity UHQR product. Was actually pressed by JVC, and I own several of those. And one thing that history has told me is that they are very collectible, very. And I wish I still had most of my, we call them QRs, colloquially. And this is very similar to that in that they're very limited edition, they're very, very desirable, and we urge you to invest in these one steps.
And in closing, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching us today and for being with us. We're very excited about everything to come in the future of MoFi. Thank you, Shawn, for making everything possible at MoFi. I think we should have a hug. What do you think?
Group hug.
Group hug.